All right, here's CNN's comments regarding Donald Trump's speech in Dimondale, Michigan. Dimondale, Michigan has a population of around 1,600. It's not even a city, it's a village. Okay, it's not even a city, it's a village. Dimondale is located approximately 93 miles away from Detroit, Michigan. And the question keeps coming up, why is Donald Trump supposedly addressing African American people when he's not talking to African American people? The crowd was estimated by some people on Twitter at approximately 5,000, and the majority of the people within the crowd were all white people. The city, Dimondale, is approximately 95% white. So again, if he had just gone down to Lansing, Michigan, which is not that far away, he would have had a much more mixed crowd. But anyway, here are the comments from the CNN panel, and they specifically concentrate on his, I guess, attempt to, if you want to call it, woo the African American vote.
Thank you.
All right, Donald Trump wrapping up his speech there in Dimondale, Michigan. I want to go ahead now and bring in my panel. I have Olivia Nuzzi, Jackie Kucinich, David Chalian with me here as well. And okay, so let's talk about this. Let's start sort of at the beginning where we heard, David, that he was speaking to African American voters. What did you see was his message, and was it just African American voters that he was trying to target here?
Well, listen, I think the whole goal of the speech overall was make this election again a referendum about Hillary Clinton. That was the goal of the entire speech, not a referendum on Donald Trump. He did make, you're right, a very direct plea to African Americans, there's no doubt, but I think when he's doing that, we also have to know he's making a plea to voters more broadly, to show himself as tolerant and open to want to court every vote possible, so that it's not just that he's hoping to win African-American votes, he's hoping to win white suburban votes who might have been reluctant to join his campaign because they thought maybe he was shunning certain voters. No, he's trying to show now that he's reaching out, and I think that's an appeal not just to the direct group of African-American voters he's reaching out to, but to a larger swath.
But actions speak louder than words. He also just brought on a campaign chair that ran a website that has become a field day for the alt-right, which is racist and all sorts of other ists. And so that's a problem. He also, back in March, a group of students in Georgia were African-American students were led. They did nothing wrong, and they were led out of the rally crying because the candidate wanted them removed. I think that, I mean, when you look at that, when you look at his actual actions, you can't just say African American a bunch of times in his speech and consider that outreach to an entire community.
It's highly condescending that he thinks that he can say the word African American a lot during his speech, and all of a sudden it will change his luck. I mean, all of the signs, all of the polling suggest that he has no chance in hell of getting African Americans to vote for him.
And yet he said, "What the hell do you have to lose?" That was the words that he was saying to black voters. What strikes me, Olivia, is you look at where he spoke here. This was Dimondale. If he'd driven 5 minutes away and gone to Lansing, then he would have actually perhaps been speaking to a more diverse group. We know from our producers who were there on the ground, this was almost entirely a white crowd, and maybe not surprisingly, because according to the census, Dimondale is 93% white. So this is a pretty white place where he went to go and say this. We've also seen this recently where he's been trying to court African American voters more and more. He's not going to African American communities to do it.
It's like Jackie said, actions speak louder than words, and I don't think his campaign is really prioritizing this, and it shows in the polls.
So really it might just be coming down to trying to attract voters in the middle of the political spectrum who have been a little uneasy about some of his language.
But there's also going to have to be a policy debate about this going forward. I mean, when he says, what do you have to lose, I have no doubt that the Clinton campaign is prepared to answer that question. And I think that they're going to now want to engage. If he's going to try to dig in to some of her base voters, one would imagine the Clinton campaign is going to welcome that fight on a policy prescription, because it'll get to, well, what policies are each proposing that has the intention to attract the
The
vote.
Clinton campaign will have a response to what they have to lose. They know exactly what the country has to lose, and I'm sure that they will come up with an ad or at least a press release answering that question.
And even as he's trying to look more inclusive, he's talking about it at the cost of other groups. He was saying that immigrants are taking jobs, talking about excluding them in order to include African Americans. So even when he's trying to be inclusive, he's being exclusive.
All right, you guys stand by for me. We're going to go now to...
All right, so that's their take on Trump's speech, which, in my opinion, was pretty much spot on. You know, he threw out a lot of stuff, and some of the things, I mean, honestly, you know, made some sense. But at the same time, this guy's got a history, and he's going to have to do a hell of a lot in a short-term period of time to overcome that history.